Good evening and welcome to the NewsHour Agenda. I'm Madhavdas. It's a massive twist in the cash for query row as business tycoon Darshan Hiranandani has corroborated charges against the TMC MP Mahua Moitra. Times now has exclusively accessed the details of his affidavit, which says that Mahua gave him her Lok Sabha login credentials and sought to take undue advantage, quote-unquote, of him by pressurizing him to do things that he didn't want to. Crucially, this comes on the eve of the hearing in the defamation suit filed by Mahua Moitra against BJP MP Ishkaran Singh, complainant advocate Jai Anand Dehadrai and others. Remember, advocate Dehadrai had accused Mahua of taking a bribe from Hiranandani to ask questions in Parliament. That's as far as the allegations are concerned. Several luxury goods have been alleged to have been demanded as gifts by Mahua Moitra, and also the business tycoon says that he initially wanted to engage with her and her social circle because he thought that would get him some amount of political influence in certain opposition ruled states, is the allegation that is being made by him. Let's quickly go across to Siddharth, who's joining us with a copy of that affidavit. Siddharth, at this point of time, it is allegations being made by Darshan Hiranandani, but he could be well on his way to becoming an approver in this case.
Absolutely, Madhav. It's a very brief affidavit. It's just about 2 pages, but it corroborates a lot of the information that had actually been shared in the original complaint on the part of Mr. Jai Anand Dehadrai, both with the CBI and the letter that he also sent to Mr. Ishkaran Singh. Now, let me in fact take you through the operative portions of the short affidavit here. And this is where he actually describes his association with Mahua Moitra. He starts by saying Mahua Moitra was very ambitious and wanted to quickly make a name for herself at the national level. She was advised by her friends and advisors that the shortest possible route to fame is by personally attacking Shri Narendra Modi, the Honorable Prime Minister of India. The only problem was that Shri Modi enjoyed an impeccable reputation and was not giving any opportunity to anyone to attack him in policy, governance or personal conduct. As was her wont, she thought that the only way to attack Shri Modi is by attacking Shri Gautam Adani and his group, as both were contemporaries and they belonged to the same state of Gujarat. She was helped by the fact that the rise of Shri Gautam Adani had created jealousy and detractors among some sections of businesses, politics and media, both within and outside the country. So she expected support from these sections in her endeavour to malign and embarrass the Prime Minister by targeting Shri Adani. She knew that Indian Oil Corporation, preferring to get into a long-term offtake agreement with Dhamra LNG, a joint venture company of the Adani Group, and not with my companies. Based on this information, Ms. Moitra drafted a few questions that would have elements to embarrass the government by targeting the Adani Group. Questions that she could raise in Parliament. She shared with me her email ID as Member of Parliament so that I could send her information and she could raise questions in the Parliament. I went along with the proposal. Now, here's the other bit. He also says she was delighted at the response she received from the first set of questions that I had sent her relating to the Adani Group. She told me that she was particularly happy with the response and the support she got from the opposition members and certain sections of the media. She therefore requested me to keep supporting her in her attacks on the Adani Group and provided me her Parliament login and password. This is quite damning, so that I could post the questions directly on her behalf when required. Now, he also, of course, goes on to say that she made a series of demands as well as asked favors, and that of course included gifts, gifting her expensive luxury items, providing her support on renovation of her officially allotted bungalow in Delhi, travel expenses, holidays, etc. Right. Apart from providing secretarial and logistical support for her travels within India and different parts of the world, I could ill afford to displease her. It's also important to mention here, Madhav, and this is just one last point, that some of the issues and claims raised in Dehadrai's original complaint have not been corroborated in this particular affidavit, namely certain cash payments in both pounds as well as rupees, and also certain hawala transactions. Those have not been mentioned in this affidavit. It remains to be seen if they are, if at all, in the defamation hearings as well. All
right, let me take this across to Pragya. Pragya, you've been speaking to your sources in the Parliament who have confirmed that this process has begun. But do we know whether it's going to be restricted to the Ethics Committee? Could this come up, for instance, before the High Court tomorrow, which is all set to hear this defamation matter? And is this affidavit, which appears to be an open-ended one because it's not addressed to anyone in particular, expected to go to other offices as well?
Well, Madhav, as we know that even Ishkaran Dubey has also received this particular sworn affidavit, he might be using this against Mahua Moitra in this defamation case, which is about to come up in the High Court tomorrow. Obviously, this is going to be used by the defense, but also we know that the Ethics Committee would be meeting on 26th of October. They will be, if they have not in fact received it yet, but they will be eventually receiving it by tomorrow. Is what we gathered from the sources. When this happens, this will be presented in the first hearing where the Ishkaran Dubey and also Jayanand Dehadri has been called to submit their oral evidence against Mahua Moitra. So the process will be put in place on 26th. This may, if the Ethics Committee Chairman allows, this may be admitted as an evidence. If that happens, then this will be very detrimental to Mahua Moitra as well, because they can take any action or initiate an inquiry. And if the inquiry is initiated, then all the agencies can be come in. And also, in fact, Ethics Committee has every right to call Mahua Moitra and also Hiranandani for a matter. They have all the right and they have all the powers to do that.
All right. So there could be a lot of procedural tangles over there, and perhaps, in fact, if these claims are corroborated, then certainly there could be trouble for Mahua Moitra if all of this is actually proved, particularly in the court of law. That's a very, very important aspect. In fact, Pragya, I'd like to thank you so much for joining us, as well as Siddharth, with details of those affidavit and its implications. Let's now take this across to our guests.
Watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
With us is Sanju Verma, national spokesperson of the BJP. Ishkaran Bhandari, advocate, joins us. Karan Verma, author, is with us. Anirban Banerjee is a political analyst. Dr. Suman Sriraman, also a political analyst, joining us on the broadcast. But I want to first and foremost go across to Ishkaran Bhandari. Ishkaran, as a lawyer, you would have seen similar cases in the past. In this particular case, what is the bearing that such an affidavit would have, A, on the defamation case, B, of course, the Committee of Parliament, which is already seized of this matter, and would they require to be more in terms of evidence that would have to be presented to back up the claims that have been made in such an affidavit?
Madhav, two things arise out of this entire controversy of Mahua Moitra receiving extremely expensive gifts and asking questions in the parliament, as has been alleged in the complaint by Advocate Dehadri. And there is a clear precedent of this. 2005, if you remember, 11 MPs took cash for questions. Those 11 MPs were then expelled by Parliament. They challenged it in the Supreme Court because a previous judgment in JMM bribery case said if you take money and then you vote, parliamentary privileges, parliamentary immunity will have a role. So these were expelled. They went to Supreme Court and Supreme Court upheld the expulsion. Supreme Court said that this is a self-protecting mechanism of a parliament to do so. So one thing, let's be very clear. What will happen in Parliament if the Parliament by majority decides to expel her? That is one legal or one parliamentary option which is hanging over her. The second is the criminal case. Because there is a CBI case, the person alleged to have the login access, the person alleged to have given gifts, now comes out in affidavit and says that yes, I did have a login access, says that there was a conspiracy, including, I read in one paragraph, international elements were involved. We do not know what those international elements were, but in the similar time period, we saw a short-selling operation by George Soros. Whether it is connected to this case or whether it is swimming in the same pool, the investigative agency will have to see. But the third aspect, that he helped in renovation of the house, that expensive gifts were taken, expensive gifts were given, which is couched in a language, but it is pretty clear that gifts were given. So then all three elements come into it. That you were doing a favor in your official position, which you're in a position to do. You were giving your logins and you were receiving expensive gifts to Cardiac, a business house, and the Prime Minister. That, if proved, is the textbook definition of corruption.
Okay, let me bring in Anirban. Let me bring in Anirban for another legal perspective on this. Anirban, if these charges are proved, and these are very grave charges indeed, you know, from motive to why she did this, how, and in fact, one could not believe the allegation that perhaps, or there were doubts over the allegation that were made about login credentials being shared. And that too has been confirmed by Darshan Hiranandani. And all of this really goes to show the kind of closeness that they enjoyed. And he says that he was literally coerced. That's also part of the affidavit. All of this at the moment, of course, it has to be proved in a court of law ultimately, but all of this at the moment certainly appears to be detrimental to the case of Mahua Moitra.
No, first of all, everything right now seems to be very fishy because this is an affidavit by the businessman. Affidavit submitted to whom, to which authority? Has this been submitted to the court? As far as my knowledge goes, in the defamation case filed by the MP, this businessman is not even a party. So how come he's filing affidavits? First of all, we need to know exactly where this affidavit has been submitted, or is this just a statement?
So I can tell you, I can tell you, one second, Anirban, since you posed this question, and we have been speaking to our sources in the parliament, etc., and they have indicated that it could be headed to three places. A, it could be headed to the parliamentary committee, the ethics committee. It could come up or be reproduced by Ishkaran Dubey, who is one of those who has been accused in this defamation case. He could bring it up, or his lawyers could bring it up before the High Court. And thirdly, that it could even go to the CBI. This is what sources are indicating. Just to give you some clarity and viewers some clarity, because it's an open-ended affidavit. You're right. It's not addressed to anyone. It's an open-ended one.
Yeah, therefore, this is yet to go to anybody, right? It hasn't gone to anybody till now. We just know that this is a statement. Even if you are calling it an affidavit on legal terms, unless and until you're submitting it before a court of law or an authority which has concerned powers like a court of law, these kind of statements mean nothing. At least let the businessman appear before a court of law or the ethics committee or the parliamentary committee.
Even if it's submitted tomorrow in the High Court, it would mean nothing, according to you?
No.
Let him submit. He's not a party. As far as my knowledge goes, in the defamation case, he's not even a party.
Okay.
If he's made a party and he submits the affidavit, then he will also have to corroborate his own claims.
I know, Ishkaran, I can see your hand going up. I want to bring in Sanju now. Sanju Verma, this has no evidentiary value. This is an affidavit that has not been submitted before any authority, before law, and therefore it is just a statement. It's not an affidavit, says Anirban.
You know, Madhav, I think Ishkaran has summed up the issue very succinctly. And I just wanted to draw, nonetheless, the attention of your viewers. While you have made these points in your introductory statements, Madhav, I think what is most damning, really damning, are points number 9, points number 10, and point number 12. In point number 9, it is clearly mentioned by Darshan Hiranandani that she wanted to malign Prime Minister Modi, and the best way of doing that was by attacking Gautam Adani, since both Gautam Adani and Prime Minister Modi are contemporaries and belong to the state of Gujarat. But more importantly is point number 10, and your audience needs to know, Darshan Hiranandani's sworn affidavit is very relevant legally, technically, and even otherwise, where he clearly says, she therefore requested me to keep supporting her in her attacks on the Adani group and provided me her parliament login and password so that I could post the questions directly on her behalf when required. But the most damning part, which your audience needs to know, is point number 12. In point number 12, Darshan Hiranandani says, the demands that were made and favors that were asked included gifting her expensive luxury items, providing support on renovation of her officially allotted bungalow in Delhi, travel expenses, holidays, etc. Apart from providing secretarial and logistical help for her travels within India and to different parts of the world, I could ill afford to displease her. Many a times, he says, many a times I felt that she was taking undue advantage of me and pressurizing me to do things I didn't want to. But I had no choice because of the aforementioned reasons. And since this matter involves me directly and has snowballed into a political controversy with the Parliamentary Privilege Committee, and the judiciary also now sees of the matter, I consider it incumbent upon me to state the facts in public interest through this sworn affidavit signed off by Darshan Hiranandani, dated the 19th of October 2023. There is a clear quid pro quo between Mahua Moitra and Darshan Hiranandani. She was taking gifts. She was asking him to, spend on her behalf, even for the renovation of her official bungalow.
Okay.
She wanted expensive cars, she wanted perfumes, she wanted luxury bags. It cannot be more shameful than this.
Okay, Anirban wants to respond to you. Anirban.
Okay, just 2 points. Yeah, 2 points, Madhav. First of all, therefore, Madam Verma does not have an answer to the question as to which authority this has been submitted. That's number one. And then number two, the language, if you focus on the language, the very wordings of the statement, don't you think this comes right out of the copybook of the BJP's defense of Mr. Adani and relation with Prime Minister Modi? Why would a businessman, Mr. Hiranandani, be so concerned about quote-unquote defaming the Prime Minister or defaming Gautam Adani? He's a businessman. Let's consider that for a moment. This is a political statement at best. The BJP has always been very, very agitated whenever Mr. Adani's relationship with Mr. Modi has come up as an issue.
Okay.
And this statement
One at a time. I'm coming to you. Sanju, 1 second. Complete your point quickly, Anirban. I have to go across to others also. Quickly make your point, please.
The BJP seems to have written this statement for Mr. Hiranandani.
Okay, it's a BJP written statement. Respond to that. Sanju Verma, it's a BJP written statement. That's a charge coming from Anirban. Please respond.
You know, Madhav, forget what Darshan Hiranandani is saying, okay? Let us just look at the 50 out of the 61 questions. Now it is known in the public domain that Mahua Moitra asked pertain to the Adani group, and she was actually tutored by Darshan Hiranandani to ask these questions. My simple point is this: Mahua Moitra is the MP from Krishnanagar in West Bengal. How many questions has she asked about her constituents, about her constituency? She can ask about the Dhamra port. She can ask about the Paradip port. She has asked about steel pricing differential. She has asked about urea subsidy. She has asked about real estate projects involving the Adani group. She has asked the powers of the income tax department. But unfortunately, she has not spoken about her key constituents.
Let me put that question to Sumansi Raman. Sumansi Raman, you heard Sanju Verma. She says that Mahua Moitra asked about, I think, 50 out of 62, subject to correction. Overwhelming majority of her questions are about, either promoting the interest of Hiranandani group or against the Adani group. How many questions has she asked about her constituency? Doesn't all of this show that there was a clear quid pro quo underway?
Let us for a moment assume that she wanted to ask questions about Adani. She has got every right to ask them. Now, point, Madhav, is this. Tell me one country where its media would take up a note which nobody even knows who it has been submitted to, which is just floating in the air, and use it to carry out a hit job on primetime national TV. Tell me one country
Mr. Sumansi Raman.
I can think of a few countries, but they are not democracies.
Mr. Sumansi Raman. Mr. Sumansi Raman. One second. As usual, when you don't have a defense or you've not studied an issue, the safest and easiest thing for you to do is to target the media. The entire media is wrong. The entire media, according to you, is irresponsible. One second. No. You can't do this. You can't do this hit and run and get away with it. No, I will not allow it. Mr. Sumansi Raman, you have to be responsible. And I'm telling you, because you made these allegations, I'm going to tell our viewers that we have confirmed it and corroborated with at least 3 sources who are in the know, who know that this particular affidavit is being submitted to at least 3 constitutional authorities and legal authorities. Whether that happens or not, Sumansi Raman, 24 hours later, we will sit here and we will debate. But do not try and brush aside the entire issue on hypothetical issues. As a responsible channel, we have not jumped the gun. We have done at least 3 confirmations before we have put out this story. Now, if I've answered your question, please stick to the debate and answer your political rivals instead of trying to bash the media.
Now tell me.
Thank you, Madhav, for showing the mirror to Sumansi Raman.
Yeah, let me ask you, mirror has been shown. Okay, 1 minute. Madhav, now answer the question. What were the expensive gifts? When were they given? 1 minute. When were they given? Was there any cash? Which she says he sponsored holidays. Where were the holidays taken? What were the dates on which? There is nothing of anything which can be firm evidence.
A politician's luxury bags being sponsored by an individual. A politician's
when was it sponsored?
Being sponsored by an individual.
Where?
A politician's renovation.
Where was it? When was it bought? Wait. Ask her to keep quiet. Ask her not to interrupt. Ask her not to interrupt.
1 second.
Ask her not to interrupt.
Sanju Verma, I understand these are questions. 1 second. Let's Sumansi Raman, you should also be a little cautious while making unfounded charges. The only point I'm making here is this. Your questions may be valid, but that is for the courts to take action on. Nobody is denying that these are questions that emerge, Suman Siraman. But at this point of time, all that we are saying is that these are charges being made. Is there any defense?
Look, one second. I am asking you in that note, tell me one thing which counts as evidence. She gave, and the best part of it is, in that note, the man actually attempts to read her mind. She had motives. Madam.
Suman Siraman, one second. Let Sanju, just 1 second. I'll answer this. I'll take it one at a time, one step at a time. I have Ishkaran also on the panel, but listen to me. Suman Siraman, listen to me. There is a letter written by an individual by the name. Suman, just listen to me. I'll answer your question. These are valid questions that you are raising. Let me put that. Maybe the courts will examine this also. But listen to the series of events. There's a lawyer, Jayanand Dehadrai, who writes the letter. That letter goes to Ishkaran Dubey. He forwards that letter to the speaker. The speaker then forwards that particular complaint to the ethics committee. They summon both Mr. Dubey as well as Jayanand Dehadrai. So the fact that there are a set of charges are known to all of us. It's in the public domain. It's not hidden from anyone. But for the first time, if the tycoon concerned in a signed affidavit is confirming almost 90% of those charges, let him prove it in a court of law. But why should we not take it at face value as a question that BJP is asking you?
So Darshan Hiranandani should not
let Suman respond. Let Suman respond. The questions for Suman. Please, Suman, let him Suman respond. Yeah.
There's no point talking.
Suman, floor is yours. Answer the question I'm asking you.
I don't know. I mean, the very fact, I will answer. Only if she stops shouting, I can answer. She's interrupting me every alternate sentence. Okay, Madhav, the point is very simple. I make an accusation. Same thing happened in Delhi liquor excise case. That man turned approver. He said, I gave 2 crores to Manish Sisodia. I gave 4 crore to somebody else. What evidence? This has got to be backed up by evidence. Some money must be found somewhere, na? Some bill must be there. Some
Let me bring in Karan Verma. Karan Verma, there's no evidence to back up these claims. That's what Sumant is saying. That there should be some evidence to back up these claims. But the fact is that Sumant, investigating agencies, I don't think even have started investigating this. But you're demanding evidence. So I'm asking Karan Verma that question.
So either Madhav, Mr. Suman C. Raman is too naive, or he is so bankrupt of any defense that he is coming up with such whataboutery and such vagueness. Here is a man who has admitted that yes, he has given gifts. He had the login credentials. I mean, this can be verified by a mere IP check, whether the login credentials were there or not, whether her login password was used from that IP or not. And Mr. Suman C. Raman doesn't even want an investigation. Does this warrant an investigation or not? You can only build a watertight case when you start investigating. Today, Mahua Moitra, prima facie, is the single most uncouth, unparliamentary person today. She has subverted every single democratic process. And to imagine that she is the one who used to wax eloquence about democracy being under threat, about liberal values. And Sanjuji said that, point number 9 and 12 were the most damning.
There's some breaking news coming. Gentlemen, ladies, I have to interrupt over here. One of the scribes named by Darshan Hiranandani in his affidavit, that is Sucheta Dalal, was linked to TMC MP Mahua Moitra. And Sucheta Dalal has broken her silence on Twitter. She says, or X rather as it's now called, don't know Moitra personally, dare to prove link to me, assertion coming in from Sucheta Dalal. She's appealed to the IT Mantri to prevent slander by some crooks. Let's go across to Kritsween, who has that tweet with her. Yes, Kritsween.
Absolutely. Madhav, I'm going to quickly read you through this tweet. Of course, this is Mr. Hiranandani talking about the details and how Mahua Moitra colluded with Sucheta Dalal along with several others. The first response that's coming from Sucheta Dalal, like you rightly pointed out, she says this is completely stupefying. I do not know Mahua Moitra personally at all. I may have retweeted some of her stuff. I do not know Pallavi Shroff, and I used to know Shardul Shroff long ago. Some of the other names that find a mention in that affidavit. I dare anyone to find any links between me and them, requesting the IT minister, and thereafter goes on to tag the railway minister Ashwini Vaishnav as well to also help. This one time the government ought to help prevent this kind of slander by some crooks. If we quickly and closely look through these excerpts of the affidavit, here's all that she's highlighted, wherein her name also finds a mention. This is the excerpt we're talking about. I would get support in other states ruled by opposition because she bonded extremely well with other leaders of the opposition like Sonia Gandhi, Shashi Tharoor, Pinaki Mishra, I beg your pardon, this is Rahul Gandhi who's being referred to, with whom also she shared close relations. Importantly, she also made
let's get in a quick response to that, Christine. Of course, a very detailed affidavit, several names of certain journalists being mentioned over there. But Sanju Verma, I'd like you to respond to this, because here you have one of the journalists, at least, who's been mentioned, saying that she doesn't know either Mahua Moitra or one of the other journalists mentioned, says that she knew one of the other journalists mentioned long ago. Of the three journalists mentioned by name, one of them, and a prominent one at that, Sucheta Dalal, has completely denied the charges.
Okay. You know, I just want to draw your attention, Madhav, to what your colleague Christine was saying. I think in point number 12, if you notice, the opening paragraph says, he says, over a period, my friendship with Mahua Moitra grew. This is Darshan Hiranandani, and he says, I also felt that through her, I would get support in other states ruled by the opposition, because she bonded extremely well with other leaders like Shri Gandhi, as in Rahul Gandhi, Shri Shashi Tharoor, and Shri Pinaki Mishra, with whom she shared close relations. Importantly, she also made frequent demands of me and kept asking me for various favors. Blah, blah, blah. We have already discussed the favor she wanted, from bags to perfumes to renovation of her house. It is very clear there was a quid pro quo between Darshan Hiranandani and Mahua Moitra.
No, that has been established. Now, Sanju Verma, on point 11, Ms. Moitra in her endeavor was getting help from other people like Sucheta Dalal, Shardul Shroff, Pallavi Shroff, who were also in touch with her and who were feeding her with all kinds of unverified information relating to Shri Gautam Adani and his companies. Now, that's a very serious claim. And one of these journalists is saying that she neither knows Mahua Moitra nor Shardul Shroff. She knew Pallavi Shroff many years ago. So this is a claim that stands debunked by one of those very prominent journalists, Sucheta Dalal, who, as we all know, had a prominent role to play in breaking the Harshad Mehta scam.
We all know Sucheta Dalal had a very important role to play in the Harshad Mehta scam. But and Sucheta Dalal, please let me finish. In the NSE co-location scam, Sucheta Dalal has not necessarily covered herself in glory, as per media reports which claim that she knew the accused in the co-location scam well before the NSE co-location scam became public knowledge.
Okay.
And I would urge Sucheta Dalal to rebut these
We're almost out of time. I'm going to allow, in the interest of fairness, I'm going to allow Suman to respond to you on that. Suman Siraman, respond to her.
She has asked for an inquiry. She said, I'm asking Sucheta Dalal to rebut it. She has already rebutted it. She is asking for the minister to inquire into the matter and find out who is slandering her.
Okay. What's wrong with an inquiry? Ishkaran Bhandari, let me bring in Ishkaran on this. Ishkaran, an inquiry from the IT minister has been sought by Sucheta Dalal. She says that I don't know any of these people, including Mahua Moitra or Shardul Shroff. How do you see this? Because this is right after the affidavit news has come out that a denial is coming from one of those who's been mentioned in it. Ishkaran.
Madhav, the tweet is perfectly legitimate, which is asking for an inquiry. That is the problem. At this stage, it's an inquiry into Mahua Moitra because they're allegations. The problem starts where certain people say, where is the evidence even without an inquiry in a case where a personal friend makes certain allegations, a rich businessman confirms those allegations. We are at the stage of inquiry, not the stage of judgment. If on these allegations we do not have inquiry, that would be a travesty of justice. So let us be clear what stage we are at.
Certainly.
Okay. Let's leave it there, gentlemen. Our lady is completely out of time. Sanju Verma, Ishkaran Bhandari, Karan Verma, Anirban Banerjee and Dr. Suman Siraman. It's been a very interesting first debate. We'll have to see what transpires tomorrow morning in the High Court where the defamation matter does come up. Thanks so much for joining us on Debate Number 1.